Hello, this is Judy Baker, book marketing mentor, and today I have the privilege of doing Author Spotlight with Teri Rogowski. And Teri's going to tell us about herself, her book, and her business. So, welcome, Teri.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Judy.
I'm curious. Now, you just published, and could you tell us a little bit about your book and how you came to write it?
Sure. The book is designed for or written as a resource guide for almost anyone that is suddenly thrown into having to take care of money, whether it's for their own family or for their parents or their children. It could be as a result of an illness where someone can no longer take care of their daily finances, or a divorce, or a death. Sometimes it's the parents that we have to step in and help. What happened to me was I became widowed when I was 33, and I had four young children. I knew nothing about money, and I had gotten this big insurance check. I mean, to me, it was huge. And I knew so little about money that I was scared to death. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know what to ask. I was afraid to ask anyone. I was terrified. And so, even my own family. And so, what I did was just carry that check in my purse until it became stale dated. I then, because I was just then very embarrassingly, I had to call the insurance company and get it reissued. And I think I put it into a bank CD. I was just terrified that someone was going to take advantage of me, because that's all I had heard about money. And myself and my family just, we were blue collar, living paycheck to paycheck. And along with grieving that stress of having this hanging over my head, this big check, was just it was just overwhelming. So when I finally put it in a bank, and as fate would have it, my sister got me a job at a stock brokerage firm about 6 months later as a secretary. And again, I was just so embarrassed. I didn't know anything, but I did know that I could answer phones and I could type. So I went and I needed a job for benefits for my children. And so I took that job and pretty quickly saw that there was a whole nother world of money and so many things to learn. And I took it upon myself to study at night and get a license. From then, 30 years later, I wrote this book because I don't want other people to have to go through that. After I learned, I became impassioned with helping to educate and empower, especially women that were thrown into these situations like I was. And just being so terrified of asking the wrong questions and not knowing who to trust. So that's what this book is. It's a resource for people. It's very easy to understand, and it's not a novel, but it is filled with true life stories. During my career as a financial consultant, at some point I became a certified financial planner and stayed in that business for 30 years. During that time, I really saw a lot of people making just terrible mistakes with money or being taken advantage of.
Could you give an example? Because what's really interesting is one of my very, very first clients had come up with a system called creative cash control, which she had learned from working with companies, with manufacturing companies, and how they did cash flow, which is different than how most individuals do it. Plus, they don't teach us this stuff in school. And this is one of the basic life skills that we need, and nobody knows it.
What I found in working with these people over the years is sometimes we just don't know the questions to ask, and we're afraid to ask, what do you mean? What is an IRA? what is a Roth? You know, what is a CD? And we're afraid to ask those questions because they are so basic. Example of probably the one that stuck in my mind the most was a woman that came to me. Her husband had passed away, and she was left with about $500,000 in a retirement account.
Mm-hmm.
I offered to help her, but over the years, her husband's best friend stepped in to help her, and she totally trusted him. He ended up doing her taxes. I think they even got married, but you know, probably about 10 years later, all her money was gone. And it was because it was in a retirement account, the IRS was now wanting their money because it was a taxable withdrawal. And the husband was long gone, the new husband. And there was never any tax returns filed. And she was just devastated because now she had no money, right, and she owed the IRS money.
I'm older than you are. So in my...
I bet you're not.
Oh, no, I am. When I was growing up, my father knew he was going to die relatively soon because he had cancer. And at that point, women could not have their own bank accounts. This is how old I am.
No, this was just in the 70s. That was so true.
It was in the 70s. I mean, it was absolutely ludicrous. I mean, you think about it now and you're going, excuse me? What? So, fortunately, they had time, but everything was up until that time was in my father's name, even though they had both contributed to assets. And we didn't have a lot either, but fortunately, they knew that they needed to do this. So, you know, they were able to go to the bank. They were able to get things done. But so many times when you don't know what you don't know, you could just be, you're just going, and we went through this also with my husband's parents. People think power of attorney covers everything. Every financial institution has its own rules and regulations, and boy, did we get educated, but we had a little bit of time to do it, but it was still really hard.
I usually get called into situations. So back to me, I ended up leaving the corporate world, the brokerage firm that I worked for. But over the years, I had seen so many of these cases where people really either their adult children didn't have the time or they didn't want the adult children to know about all these things. And so everything was very secretive until there was some kind of a disaster. I had started this business the day after I retired from corporate. I had it I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to really help people at a first level, you know, very intimate way to help them. But there's not enough of me in the area or the world. So I am a daily money manager. I go into people's homes and help them sort out their finances. It's usually in a crisis situation that I get called in.
Yeah.
Where oftentimes the person that had been taking care of the finances, and I'll give you an example. So we take on different roles as partners throughout a marriage. Right. And after many years, you'll find that people have taken on roles because they enjoy what they're doing. And it might be that the husband takes care of the investing and the auto repairs and maintenance, and maybe the woman takes care of the daily keeping the bills paid, the grocery shopping, and the social calendar. So that, you know, kind of typical. And what happens sometimes is that husband has a stroke. So the wife now still has her duties that she's always done, but now she also has to take care of what he was doing, and she becomes the 24-hour caretaker. So those are overwhelming situations that I have seen more often than I would like to, that we just don't plan on.
No. When you're in a crisis, on top of, you know, stuff has to happen, but then you have this emotional component to it. You know, money's one thing, and not everybody has a good relationship there in the first place. But if you add on the emotional catastrophe that maybe just happened, then all bets are off. I mean, I've seen it too in circles of friends and family, and it's really hard. It's really
Yeah.
it's painful. It's painful to see people, and nobody wants anyone to get taken advantage of, but we know that there are some unscrupulous people out there. I mean, I worked in investment banking as well, and their reality is different than the rest of the world.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
How would you say, you've given me a clear picture of your audience and what your book's about, but when you were thinking about writing this book, did you find other books that were similar, or did you find ones that you thought were leaving something out of the equation?
Well, when I first thought about writing the book, it was really based on my own story. And my book writing coach, Diana Needham,
Yeah.
um, we had a conversation, and I said, I just think that my book would be too simplistic. It is just going to be too basic. And she said, there are people out there waiting for that. So I went on Amazon and started looking for basic money books. And what I found was the ones that were very basic had a title in it like Money for Dummies or Investing for Dummies, which was so condescending. And I didn't find, on the other hand, there was many about how to get ahead in finance, how to make $1 million. And so there was nothing that was just really basic, down to earth. How do I get started for real?
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me I have to give up my Starbucks coffee, and don't tell me I have to, not spend anything or pay off, not have any debt. I just wanted something very basic. So after I thought about that more and saw that there was nothing like this, I decided to proceed and write the book.
I love it. And as you started to do your consulting, since the book is really based on your experience and then how you help people, who did you start to network with, or how did you get the word out about what you're doing?
Well, a lot of people already knew what I was doing. And then when I said, I think I'd like to write a book, I had a lot of encouragement saying, yes, you had, because they saw me teach over the years and give seminars.
Yes.
And they said, and I always told stories about mistakes that people made.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one woman saying to me, I don't want to be one of your stories. After one of my seminars. So I would just, I am involved in a lot of networking groups, and I have, previous clients and professionals that I've worked with over the years, because I've been in this area for 25 years. And so I just kind of, bounce the idea off of people. And I called a couple of the CPAs, the accountants that I knew.
Yes.
And said, what do you think about this? And there were several that said, oh, I can see having your book in my office to give to my clients. And that's really what I want to do. Anybody that sees this, anybody that needs the book is probably not going to buy it.
I think you're right, because they don't even know that they've got this. I'm thinking of it like an avalanche waiting to,
Yeah.
take over your life. And until you've been there, you have no idea just how bad it is. And I think, because you knew from having the experience yourself, then being in the financial services industry and seeing, there's a big range, but most of the time the stuff is really pitched at people who have a whole lot of dollars. So if they lost a little bit, it wouldn't crash their life. But if someone's living pretty skinny, this could, it could just be devastating, absolutely devastating. That makes me wonder too, have you done anything about educating younger people, what they need to know as they're getting started in their career and life?
I have not. It's crossed my mind, but I have enough clients now, and I love what I do. You know, I saw 3 clients earlier today, and all of them were in this situation where the spouse that had taken care of everything had either passed away or is in a dementia situation. I just love what I do.
In getting your message out there, how can we help you reach the people you would like to be speaking with?
I would love to be speaking with the professionals that are dealing with clients in these situations. So the attorneys and the divorce attorneys and estate planning attorneys and accountants. So anyone, healthcare professionals. My doctor personally has recommended my book to some of her patients.
Well, that makes sense. That totally makes sense to me. And uh, when people are ill, that's not the time to be trying to figure this out.
Exactly.
I'm curious too. So you're doing online speaking, I would imagine, as well as you're doing things offline, as we're starting to be doing things offline,
Yeah.
sort of kinda. What would you say if you were going to describe your dream opportunity to speak?
One of my dreams, I actually spoke to a local group of attorneys last September, but because of COVID, there was only 10 people in the room. They were all estate planning professionals.
Yeah.
And I love going to them and saying, these are things that you don't realize that your clients aren't telling you. And I love also to talk about the risks that people face as they age and how to avoid some of those.
Mhm.
There's so many. I'm sitting here right now with a bag full of mail from a client I picked up today they're all charitable requests. People don't know that when you give to a charity, you're actually putting your name on a list. And so it just compounds even more. And most of the people I know are so kind and so generous, and they get taken advantage of.
That came up. I mean, I'm a member of AARP, um,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
I have been since I turned 50, which was a while ago. But what I like about how AARP approaches this is they tell you stuff to be looking out for. And fortunately, I'm very technology oriented. I have been my whole life. And so when I see something funky, I'm not
Yeah.
going. And
Yeah.
I think of all the people that go, oh yeah, I'll just, it came in my email box. I'm just going to click on this. Nope, don't go there. And you're absolutely right about these lists. I mean, you can just get showered with unsolicited, what you think is unsolicited, but because that was, how the organization worked, that it's really difficult. And I wish there were more protections for people when they're innocent and they
Yeah.
don't know that they need to do that. So I think that's great that you're
Oh,
that you're that you're helping people understand what they need to know that they don't know.
yes.
Yes.
So I love speaking to groups of people, maybe, recent widows or divorcees to talk about the security, but then sometimes the professionals that can pass on my information.
Yeah. I That makes a lot of sense to me. And one of my good friends is she's a triple threat. She is an enrolled agent. She's written a fabulous novel that's going to be out this year, but her first book was about tax loopholes for business owners. And then she wrote another treatment of it aimed at creatives, because those of us who are creative don't necessarily like to just do things in a little straight line.
Most of my clients it's interesting. Doctors and artists are kind of most of my clients are either retired doctors,
Uh-huh.
physicians, or
Uh-huh.
artists.
and they approach things in very different ways.
That's right. Yeah.
For them, yeah, they do. They do that. How can people get in touch with you?
So my website is the number 2, personalfinancial.com. Again, that's personalfinancial.com. And my book is listed on my website. My book is Peace of Mind for Money Matters.
Would you happen to have a copy that you could hold up next to you?
I think I do. There. Well, that's backwards.
No, it's fine. And just hold it up next to your face so we can see you. We want to have, that's the money shot, my dear. And get used to doing that. Oh, it's a beautiful cover. That feels very calm.
That was the purpose.
I like that.
Never ending. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very, very good. And is there anything that I haven't asked you that you might want to share with us today?
Yes, I'm open to public speaking and teaching. Yes, I love to teach.
Oh, all right. Well, I love that. And I feel you have targeted those of us in the world who are not naturally money people without making us feel stupid, which is a good thing. And like you, I agree. For dummies, I kind of, even though I have friends who wrote some of those books, that always offended me. I went, I'm not dumb. I just don't know that thing, and I want to learn it. And so I like that you took it in a different direction, and that's very, very helpful. You know what I didn't ask you? Aside from your story in finance, is there something else we might want to know about you that would be fun? A fun fact?
Well, I adopted a puppy during COVID. And that was right after my book launch. So I launched a book and adopted a puppy. So I found that I'm staying home more now.
Well, yeah. What kind of puppy did you get?
A Havanese. That's kind of quirky too.
Yeah.
They're bred as lap dogs for Cuban royalty. So Havanese, like Havana. So and that's what she does. She loves to sit on my lap
and you get to be the queen. So you're the queen of finance. I love it. Teri, you have been a delightful guest. I appreciate this so much. And being on Author Spotlight means we look at you, your book, and your business. And I think you are off to a brilliant, this is your third act. And I think it's a brilliant third act. And I know some folks I will definitely send your way. And with that, this is Judy Baker, Book Marketing Mentor. And I will see you again in our next episode. But you can find me at bookmarketingmentor.com. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy.